Liberty in America is under assault. We no longer live in a reality that includes property rights. We're no longer the kings of our own castle. We no longer enjoy the true benefits of capitalism. Instead, we're negotiating our rights with our own government. This isn't how our country was founded. These aren't the ideas of our founders. It's time to seize back our country. This is the Liberty Hour, where these important issues will be discussed for the sake of America's future. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Constitution in the other, here's your host, Sean Thompson.
This is the Liberty Hour podcast. Call in if you care to participate in this show. Am I loud or is it me? 312-642-5600. And I'm going to tell you, yesterday, if you listen to the podcast, I really tried to show the fact that the Republicans, that the economy that we have right now is so interwoven with socialism. It's virtually impossible to untangle. Well, last night, there was something that was just sickening about the whole thing. And it wasn't just the fact that we are so unmoored from a representative republic. Did you see how each and every one of them want to completely rebuild society in an image they have tucked away in their juvenile, sophomoric, socialist little brain? Now, it's almost cute when little Cindy Lou Who does it, transgendering Cindy Lou Who I like to call Pete Buttigieg. It's cute, right? He's so stupid and innocent, like your nephew when you go over to the house and you got the little 3-year-old walking around in his big boy pants. That's what Pete Buttigieg is to me. And they talk about things they have known now. Oh, look at this, how cute. But it's not so cute when you realize, I can't decide, was this the A team or the B team? That's going to be the hardest challenge of these Democrat debates as we watch round 2 of the title weight for most totalitarian president in history, because that's what we have now. That's the real progress. You could talk about all the spending. It's irrelevant who's in there. You could talk about the debt. Once again, irrelevant. But the main thing is whoever it's going to be, and that goes for our side, this will be the president in most control of your life, bar none, up until the conception of the country, up until 1776. This is it. This is going to be the leader with the most control. And I was almost awestruck by the amount of tinkering each one of them want to do. And the only thing that they could come to an agreement on is something I've been saying since 2009, since proposed. Boy, Obamacare sure sucks, doesn't it? Each and every one of the Democrats are running against Obamacare, which you told me. All of these talking points, the same verbiage that the idiot in Depends, Bernie Sanders, was spewing. How it's going to be great. Everybody's got a right. All we need to do is snap it in, and you're going to live in utopia. And then I listened to Elizabeth Warren, and she kept saying a phrase that is extremely important for all of you who think we're wrong when we call them socialists and communists, which is really, by the way, it's the same thing, only with a softer sales pitch. Same thing. All of the people that she kept saying, profits made in the insurance industry were taken out of the economy. Well, what about the massive 400% increase Obamacare did to those costs? Where does that money, is that taken out of the economy too? Because it's taken out of my life. It's taken out of everybody's life who pays it, even the ones on welfare who are subsidized. It's taken out of every company's bankroll. So is that just taken out? You see, because that's a telling little sign that Elizabeth Warren has. Because what she thinks is the economy is government's. The economy is government's to be dictated and mandated and orchestrated, as they all do, each and every one of them. This isn't our economy. This isn't our money. It's theirs. And they're stupid if they let you keep it. And by the way, for the ones who are really good at making money, it's even worse if they let you keep it and they let you continue to make money, continue to make investments. That is where we draw the line as the United States of America, the Soviet Union it has become. How dare they allow you You evil 1%ers. You evil capitalists. You evil, evil son of a bitches who want to expand your net worth. We can't let you keep it. That's the takeaway. Because as Elizabeth Warren shows you her leg, and by the way, that's the only part of her leg you want to see. That's the takeaway. Any profit to anybody is taken out of the government's economy, the government's control. Because after all, we're simply tools. We're simply cogs in the machine that is America, right? See, for you idiots out there nodding your head, that's exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to be. That's how you know let's not even pretend anymore that United We Stand and all that BS nonsense and that we have a republic. You know what? After watching the acceptance and hearing the cheers of these imbeciles, and I don't mean the con artists that stand before you, which, by the way, it truly was like a cattle call for the new comedy movie of the Step Brothers. I couldn't decide who was the more laughable and the more incompetent and the more unqualified, because they're all tied. They're all tied. And there was one guy, there was a bald guy who tried to assert himself. Their names, I'm going to tell you something, kids. It ain't even worth learning their names. The only one I can remember is the one who took his mother to see Deep Throat, Hickenlooper, sick son of a bitch that he is. Yeah, you're going to be the president, huh? Okay, sure you are. All right, let's go, because it's crucially important you understand, before we play these clips and before you watch tonight, understand this. You are property. You don't own anything, kids, and you will be allowed to keep whatever it is they think you exceed the limit of. That's all. And everybody else, they have rights to all the same quality of life as you do, the hard worker. This whole thing with insurance is mind-boggling. I didn't like in private insurance pools when you put me in the pool with the scumbag, drug addict, drunk, wife-beating lowlife who lived in a mobile home park and couldn't wait to eat pork rinds. How you let me and my quality of life and how I take care of myself and how I treat myself. You're using me as a hedge against that scumbag. That was the flaw of the private. The government doesn't even pretend that that's not even that's any question. Of course they're using it, because that low-life scum who puts the needle in his arm every day, who molests his niece, who eats corned beef and thinks it's an appetizer, that guy has a right to the same kind of treatment you get. We've lost the argument because you're afraid to have it. You don't have the right to anything when you do behavior that leads to the kind of devastation and costs we already know. I mean, I guess it's why no one talks about the 85 gangbangers shot every weekend, what the cost of that is. Does anyone want to talk about the cost of it? And how many of them are walking around with their Blue Cross Blue Shield card? How many of them are struggling and taking off their table to pay their insurance premiums, like me and the kid in there in his mother's pants? How many of us are sacrificing where the others don't, yet they're guaranteed the same health care I am? I had a Twitter follower tell me, well, because I said, listen, if one of these people win, as a capitalist, you have but one alternative. Now it's screw you. And I cleaned that up. I don't want to say the big F word. Now it's screw you. Now I won't work. Right? I have a right to all of the same things I busted my ass for and that I paid for. Yet the sloths of America, they have the right to it. So why in the hell am I putting any effort forward? That's exactly how the people in the Soviet Union felt when they drank vodka all day. See, that's where this shit leads. It's no coincidence in the states that are run by these idiots, the biggest thing to promote is intoxication and drug use. And as a libertarian, listen, you have the right to be a scumbag, but don't make me pay for it. That's the only difference. I found it amazing, and not a pundit. Not that you're going to get anything from these walking mannequins. I mean, it is so ridiculous to pretend that these reporters, and I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans, they're not intelligent enough to be a reporter. They're not intelligent enough to be a moderator. They have no questions of any substance. It's like the first time, I don't know how to do radio. And I'm sure most of the people who don't like me have pointed that out for years. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do an interview because I'm not here to fluff you. I don't think that that's a quality interview. I don't think that propagandizing points rather than understanding the way things are supposed to work and questioning those who are trying to change it, I don't think that's a service to anybody. and you had, I don't know, what were there, 4 or 5 moderators? To me, they're like wide receivers. Why even learn their frickin' names? They're useless anyway. And they have the same costumes on, spewing nonsense. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous that they sat there and not a one of them pointed out, why are you all running against Obamacare that you told me was the fricking answer to utopia? You told me this was the key to the front door of paradise. Yet every one of you know it sucks. But here's the beauty of government. Rather than admitting that it sucks, they understand that's how they profit. It's like the article I got in Illinois, and we'll get to this later. Look, I was crazy, right? Didn't everybody tell me I was crazy when Illinois was going to bail out the Chicago scumbag crime mafia that it is? Well, it's right here. And you could go to illinoispolicy.org to read the article. We're bailing them out. It's all part of the new progressive tax. See, that's how they capitalize on you. That's how they could put the leashes and the restraints on you and limit your power. And to one of these scumbags running, whether it's last night or tonight, you're but a tinker toy for them. You're just a little tiny thing. And they'll control you. And how dare you think you could step out of line by earning more? How dare you think you could step out of line by implementing choice? And by the way, this is my same rebuttal against the collectivism that Trump spews. But here's the thing. He's winning, kids, because he stole their mojo. And he's selling that bullshit better than any car salesman on Western Avenue. And if you think the American people are going to look at these failures, these old, incompetent, barely masculine for the ones who are men and too masculine for the ones who I think are women. I couldn't tell what Scott Baio, transgendering Scott Baio, what is her name, Williams? She's the kook of them all. Love it. But here's my own favorite, the one who started it all, the one who, when I grew up, would have been called a communist and thrown out of any place he spewed this bullshit, now has a very good likelihood of being the nominee for the Democrat Party.
Let's be clear what this debate is about. Nobody can defend the dysfunctionality of the current system. What we are taking on is the...
Wait a minute. This is my favorite part. Nobody can defend the dysfunctionality of the current system. Yet he doesn't name it. You mean Obamacare? Hey, you scumbag, that 10 years ago, you told everybody how the same shit you're saying about this universal Medicare, Medicaid, whatever the hell you're calling it, welfare insurance. You're the same idiot that said the exact same thing about Obamacare. And now it fails and you have the balls to run against it? Not that you have balls that aren't in your socks, but you have the balls to run against it?
The fact that over the last 20 years, the drug companies and the insurance companies have spent $4.5 billion of your health insurance money on lobbying and campaign contributions.
That's because they're buying you and your colleagues, because you're political whores who prostitute the power you've seized that no citizen gave you, scumbag. Not that I'm for lobbying. He's exactly right to run against lobbying. Problem is he's not running against lobbying on the fundamental basis of politicians abusing power. He's running against lobbying to cut off any influence to the socialists that he wants to control it. Jawohl, Herr Kommandant. Just like every other Nazi organization, whether it's the Nazis, the real ones in Germany, or the really good ones in Russia.
That is why when I went to Canada the other day, people paid 1/10 the price.
Here's another thing. Canada sucks. Canada sucks. Their insurance sucks. It's why their prime minister went to Mayo Clinic for a heart surgery. It's why they have trips specifically designed to get anybody in Canada with 2 nickels to rub together out of the country so they can walk around with teeth. That's why. And this idiot has the audacity to sell it. Here's the problem. Your fellow citizen is too stupid to understand all those things. In fact, they're nodding their head like seals as this communist son of a bitch is allowed to propagandize it.
Canada for insulin that they're paying in the United States.
I want to bring in Congressman Tim Ryan. Congressman Ryan, your response?
So here we are in Detroit, home of the United Auto Workers. We have all our union friends here tonight. This plan that's being offered by Senator Warren and Senator Sanders will tell those union members who gave away wages in order to get good health care.
No, you didn't give away wages to get good health care. Please, you gave away wages because you wanted to be part of the labor mafia. You gave away wages because you wanted your break. You wanted your bullshit. You wanted your raises without production. You wanted to sit on your ass and just get a ride along like every other union member. That's number one. Number two, the only reason you get those deals and you get that is because the union, the extortion racket, extorts not just the company they work for, but the insurance company. They extort everybody. So there's no virtue in the unions. And by the way, all you car union guys, the party you've been giving your money to and you've been voting for like you're in on the scam, they're eliminating your whole industry with their fossil fuel bullshit that's built on another fraud.
They're going to lose their health care because Washington's going to come in and tell them they got a better plan. This is the left and right thing. New and better is this. Move Medicare down to 50. Allow people to buy in. Kaiser Permanente said that if
Aren't we already
those
buying
60
in?
million people do that, they will see a 40% reduction in their health care costs. Let businesses buy in, Jake.
So, Senator, let's talk about that. If Medicare...
Let's talk about this. Forget about this idiot. I want to talk about my point. Medicare, the only reason people don't have to pay a lot of money and the only reason everybody loves it is because they have the power to stiff the doctor and the hospital. Medicare stiffs everybody. Medicare is the reason doctors have to throw numbers at you in hopes to get a third. Because Medicare has been screwing actual providers of health care that everybody thinks is a right for half a century since it was conceived. Medicare has stiffed the provider. The only doctors who like being on Medicare are doctors who suck and are just pretty much postmen in lab coats. Those are the guys, they stick their thumb in your derriere. Yeah, you should be good, take aspirin. And they send Medicare a bill for $7,000. That's who likes Medicare. The scam artists and the incompetent. And you know something? You know, I half of me, kid, I want them to get Medicare. Good. Now we can weed out the weak. Get rid, because you're all dead once Medicare kicks in. You think Obamacare sucks? That's the appetizer to suck. Medicare is the entree.
Medicare for All is enacted, there are more than 600,000 union members here in Michigan
Good.
who would be forced to give up their private health care plans.
Can't wait to
now,
see you
I
out of work.
understand that it would provide universal coverage, but can you guarantee those union members that the benefits under Medicare for All will be as good as the benefits that their representatives, their union reps, fought hard to negotiate?
Well, two things. They will be better
Yeah, they
because
fought hard.
Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs. For senior citizens, it will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know
Second of all,
You don't know that,
second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and
Congressman.
I wrote the damn bill.
Yay, look it. He's alive. Is that a cheer line? I do know what I wrote the damn bill. You mean the bill that went nowhere? You mean the bill that the vast majority of even Democrats rejected? Dummy. Yeah, cheer. It's amazing. And what else is amazing is that the one that we're worried about are the virtuous union members, the crime organization, labor extortion rackets. And by the way, I say that I was in one. My father, union guy, my whole family, union guys. Oh, yeah, they negotiate. They negotiate. How do they negotiate? With extortion, with threats, with intimidation, with bribes. They're the virtuous ones, though. Yeah, and here's for all the union guys. You know why they like it? Because they don't get competition. You know why they like it? If they know their business agent, if they got their guy, their president of their union, or their crime boss family, then their kid gets a job too. That idiot who they wouldn't let sit at the big table during Thanksgiving. Please, what a scam. I mean, are we all walking around with frickin' blindfolds on? The only answer is the one that we're told that our government has with us. The Covenant of Representation Republic. This isn't a freaking republic. It's amazing any of us can operate under this shit. Some of us can't, right? And some of us sell out. We go work for the local village, the fire department, sit on your ass and play PlayStation and pretend you're a freaking hero. Or my favorite ones are the ones who are inside the unions, in the municipalities, and they tell us how hard and everything works so smooth. And what do we pay per person? What do we pay? What are the taxes? Don't keep your eye on that fact. No. See, everything should be privatized. Everything. Even the police. Privatize it all. You realize the payouts the people pay for the scumbags that are truly the not good guys? Please. It's all ridiculous. I mean, it's just such a soiree of nonsense last night. I thought my head was going to blow off. You know, I'm tweeting like a nut. But I can't. I mean, do you realize sooner or later, one of these idiots is going to be the president? Sooner or later, this will be the mantra, the philosophy of the President of the United States, where your life is but their property. And how about the reparations thing? It is so stupid and such a pandering welfare buyout that not only will it get support, but the ramifications, you implement reparations and you steal the money from us who did nothing in life to make us pay penalties of things we had no influence on, no participation on, and most of us completely disagreed with, and spend the rest of our lives talking about how wrong it was. And some of us actually read the founding papers of the country and realize it was within this country that it lasted the least. Africa's the only place slavery really thrives today. Are they paying reparations? I'm wondering, are the African slave masters who are still in business, do they pay reparations? No. The kid in there in the tight pants pays them. He doesn't have a racist bone in his body. And that's not just because he'd have sex with anybody of any race who would say yes. It's because he just doesn't. Yet you're going to penalize him and his friends. So stupid, so ridiculous.
It is my way of talking about I know how to fight and I know how to win. I took on giant banks and I beat them. I took on...
Now listen, I hit the wrong button, so we're going to have to hear that idiot again. For those of you who don't know about Elizabeth Warren, which I guess is everybody who thinks they would support her and all of the women from Oak Park who look like plumbers in Subarus, the reality is she, Elizabeth Warren, did work with banks. She didn't work with banks to have some sort of a righteousness in grading their liability as they packaged mortgages. She worked with banks to have the inside track to buy foreclosed homes and make $3 million. That's what Elizabeth Warren did, stupid. The woman of virtue, the Dutch boy. As I listen to her, it's at least she has. It is such a joke that somebody would look at this person and say, "Yeah, she's gonna be my girl. She's the president." The only person that's happy she's running is her husband because she's out of the frickin' house.
It is my way of talking about I know how to fight and I know how to win. Mm-hmm. I took on giant banks and I beat them. I took on Wall Street and CEOs.
And you took their money.
And their lobbyists and their lawyers, and I beat them. I took on a popular Republican incumbent senator, and I beat him. I remember when people said Barack Obama couldn't get elected. Shoot, I remember when people said Donald Trump couldn't get elected. But here's where we are. I get it. There is a lot at stake, and people are scared. But we can't choose a candidate we don't believe in just because we're too scared to do anything else. And we can't ask other people to vote for a candidate we don't believe in. Democrats win when we figure out what is right and we get out there and fight for it.
Democrats don't win. Democrats win when they pander, when they promote welfare, when they promise gifts of regular working people to people who don't work. Democrats win because their bases are welfare states. They only win in corrupt districts. Democrats don't win among free-thinking people. Democrats don't win against people who understand what the fundamental promise between government and man is. They work for us. We're not their slaves. Democrats only win among the economic illiterate, the self-loathing failures, and those who are willing to prostitute their dignity for a little check and a little government cheese. That's when Democrats win. But she knows that. She knows that, and you know who else knows it? My favorite, the transgendering Scott Baio, the culmination between Scientology and governance.
My response on the Flint water crisis is that Flint is just the tip of the iceberg. I was recently in Denmark, South Carolina, where there is a lot of talk about it being the next Flint. We have an administration that has gutted the Clean Water Act. We have communities, particularly communities of color and disadvantaged communities.
So now here's my prime example. These communities that are suffering from this lead, this isn't because anybody gutted the Clean Water Act. This is because the politicians who are seizing tax money to continue to improve infrastructure for every day that they took the money from the time they were in office, from the time the infrastructure was created, and they were learning how to improve it and maintain it, they stole the money. They stole the money. In Flint, Michigan, in Chicago, Illinois, where right now the South Side, the people can't drink the water, your aldermen, your representatives who were taxing your neighbor to maintain infrastructure that was built stole the money. They didn't test the water. They didn't improve the piping. They didn't maintain the piping. They took the tax money and had a party, like Fredo in Vegas with 2 waitresses. That's what they did. And if they were Republicans, they were 2 waiters. That's what happened. That's what they did. But yet now, all of a sudden, you get to demonize Donald Trump, who, for the most part, paid off the political whores we see before us. Now he understood, why am I letting them control anything? And here's the other thing. They're running on his principles. They're running on his collectivism. They're running on his Keynesianism, his reinvesting into specific targeted neighborhoods, like the farmers, his favoritism. They're running on his platform, and they're not going to be successful because nobody can sell bullshit like a bullshit salesman. And Trump has been a bullshit salesman for 60 years. Only he's not selling it the way they're selling it, to mindless people who profit from it. He's been selling it to everybody. And for 50 years, he's synonymous with that phony achievement. They don't stand a chance. You think men and women of character who go to work are going to look at the 2 people telling you things? Which one is going to be the guy that gets the support of the average Joe? This guy right here?
If it's true that if we embrace a far-left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it. That's the policy I'm putting forward, not because I think it's the right triangulation between Republicans here and Democrats there, because I think it's the right answer for people like my mother-in-law, who is here, whose life was saved by the ACA, but who is still far too vulnerable to the fact that the insurance industry does not care.
See how you just say things, they mean nothing? Life was saved by the ACA. You mean Obamacare? You don't want to call Obamacare anymore? Yeah. How was it saved, stupid? How? You mean a doctor that would have treated her if she was an illegal alien and they brought her in an emergency room? That's how it was saved? Or the fact that she stopped making payments and now she could afford to get high? In which way was it saved? But anyway, I'm supposed to look at this guy, who's, by the way, mother-in-law because he's married to another fella, and I look at Donald Trump, and I'm going to say, which one do I want to control the ACA or Obamacare? Which one do I want to defend us against enemies? Oh, I know you ran around in your Navy costume, but which one do I really want, do I think is going to protect me and my kids? You think I'm going to go with you, Cindy Lou Who? You think anybody with an IQ over 60 will? Oh, I know in certain circles you're raising money, but that ain't got nothing to do with your politics, kid. Nothing. It's got to do with your orientation that you wear on your face like a license plate in hopes it avoids criticism. I'll tell you what, it's a shame because I stand by everything I said about the fraud of the Republicans Party. I stand by everything I said about the totalitarian collectivism and control over your daily life that Donald Trump has seized with good conscience, that he has seized while calling himself righteous, how he has devastated small business, paid off big business to keep him happy, promoted a Keynesianism that Keynes himself never thought was possible. Used it to specifically target, intimidated the Federal Reserve into cutting rates to fake an economy, to fake success in selling cars and houses, all the scams that Donald Trump has backdoor negotiated that Paul Krugman used to get resistance from Stephen Moore about. Paul Krugman, the Keynesian economist, the collectivist, the dictator, the pseudo-neo-socialist. Yeah, that Paul Krugman. He loves Donald Trump's economics. And every socialist, that's the real story. Donald Trump stole the Democrat Party because he stole their economics. And the whole time, he bought the complacency because he had the trust of pretend Republicans, pretend conservatives, and phony capitalists. But the people with the principles and fundamentals, I got news for you. You're whistling in the wind, kid. You got nobody running. But don't worry. Don't get too aggravated. Because Donald Trump looks like Hayek next to these communists. We're obviously on a path to manipulate our own currency and cry that we're victims of currency manipulation. We're obviously on a path to intimidate all foreign adversaries or allies that have the audacity to question our mindless printing and borrowing, our reckless, unabashed spending. We obviously have the complacency through force and threat of military action of some allies that can't afford to criticize us. We have a polarized nation that refuses to look at the actual facts and causation of the now adversaries we face, specifically Iran. Anybody want to look at the 53 CIA papers? Don't bother yourself with it. Anybody want to look at the CIA toiling in Central America, in South America? Anybody want to think about how many elections has the American CIA tampered in? Anybody? Think we tampered in Russia's? You think we tamper in anybody that isn't us? Of course we do. You think, by the way, would they tamper with us? I think they do too. But you're not supposed to think, right? Celebrate. Apollo 11 landed 50 years. We're victims. China's bad. China's bad. And I heard one idiot last night. I think the guy from Montana. No, the guy from Bullock. Was it Bullock, kid? I don't even remember. They're so fungible. He had the audacity to get up there and try to steal China as the enemy the way Trump made it up. And he said something that was almost amazing. China owes 25% of our debt. And you know what? He wasn't questioned by one of the talking mannequins. He wasn't. In fact, he was cheered by the audience. And you know the reality? Because I knew the reality. They own an infinitesimal amount of our debt. Number one, because since Donald Trump won, they've been monetizing it. They've been liquidating it. In fact, the total debt out of the $22 trillion that the government admits to, not the $260 we're liable for. Out of the $22 trillion, the total amount owed by China, those evil dragons, is $1.12 trillion. $1.1 trillion. What are you, nuts? That's barely half of Trump and Nancy's infrastructure bill. That's the total debt. Yet if they call it in, we're bankrupt. No, you're bankrupt, stupid, because for generations, politicians have mindlessly borrowed without the idea of consequence. That's why you're bankrupt. Has nothing to do with China or any other evil villain you want to pretend is out there. It has to do with the Congress that has been destroying things for 50 years. Those incompetent Republicans and Democrats that have been selling their power to anybody with a frickin' checkbook or bringing it back home to their idiot relatives in their district. That's why you're bankrupt. It isn't China, kids. In fact, the reality is China's the only place that has added value when we were being extorted against these union mafia figures in the UAW and others. China's not your enemy. It's your friend. It's the only reason you have the quality of life you have. And that goes for all you Walmart shoppers who have no frickin' idea how they're able to bring you value at such reasonable prices. China, Mexico, Canada, and anywhere else that brings value. They're the friend of the American citizen, not the American corporatist government who uses its power and sells it to the highest bidder, often an extortion mafia like unions. That's your freaking enemy, not the Chinese. Price fixing, corporatism, subsidized companies, guaranteed loans, interest rate manipulation, mindless quantitative printing. That's your enemy, not some guy with a different face than you. I don't know. That's only round one. How am I going to live through round two, kid? How am I going to live through round two? No idea. It's going to be very difficult. Listen, I appreciate you listening very much. I have to go to HR. I got to approve something here at the studio. What? Because we're moving forward on some plans. This is going to be at the cigar store. Nobody calls. People don't call. Justin, anybody call today? No. Just your sister to check on you? Or did she want her top back? I can't figure it out. All right, listen, we'll be back next Sunday night, 8 to 9 for our live show, me and Macbeth. And I may have to go to Florida for work next Monday. I'm waiting to hear. I'm in the middle of frickin' deal falling apart, but I'll put it back together. Never fret. In the meantime, I appreciate you listening very much. Good luck tonight. You know, I don't drink anymore, kid. It's probably because of all of the things I have going around in my head. It makes me in a very sour mood. But if these son of a guns are right about, I think Beto cut the 12-year hyperbole. He shaved 2 years. Now we only got 10 years left? Whew. I'll tell you, when we get to 1 year, I think I'm going to dress up like Sir Lancelot. Start riding down the street in a horse with a jousting people. What's the difference? We only got 10 years. I mean, really, what's the difference? 10 years. Can't do anything in 10 years. The whole world's going to collapse. Idiots. Idiots. The only one dumber are the ones that believe the sales pitch. I never thought I'd say this, but I sure hope Donald Trump really wins, and I think he will win. I think he'll win by a lot because I was watching my former Democrat in-laws just disgusted with these clowns. My father-in-law is the biggest Trump supporter in the world. You know what he was, kid? A union president. Could you believe it? Imagine what he says to his friends about me. Listen, I've had a good time. Thank you so much for listening.